All right, guys, I'm going to break the entire list down. I know when I post this, there's going to be a ton of questions, so I'm just going to break it down from each bulleted point, so on and so forth. And again, this is kind of just my way of going about it. It's what helped me get from, you know, 85 to 95 plus in the span of, a half a year. And it may not work for you. That's just the way it goes. So let's break it down. Ask why you want to throw harder. I'm a big proponent of understanding your foundation for what you do and why you do anything. Ask yourself why. If the why behind it is because you want to play at the next level, then the work that you put into it is going to be a lot more consistent because the foundation is a lot stronger. If you want to just throw harder because it's the cool thing to do, that's not really that strong of a foundation, and it's gonna not allow you to continuously work hard towards those goals. You're going to have days where you're not feeling it. You're going to have days that you're just kind of like, we'll skip the workout or whatever. So that's why I put ask why in the very beginning. Visualize yourself reaching your velocity goals. I'm a huge advocate of visualization drills. I think, you listen to the most successful people in the world, or even like the best speakers in the world, and they always talk about visualization, and not just visualizing like, you winning at something or whatever, like actually you being in the moment of where you want to be when you like reach that goal. So like for me, it's visualizing like me throwing the ball 400 plus feet, me visualizing throwing the ball 100 miles an hour. Like I think if we can connect the brain in the sense of the underlying belief in what we're doing, it's gonna propel us, I'm telling you. And then third, surround yourself with a group seeking velocity gains. I don't know if I have to further elaborate on this, man. I think the competitive thing, the people who you surround yourself with, that's a huge piece, I think, to the puzzle. Is you really just get the most out of yourself when you're constantly competing, and you're in a group of other people that are seeking those same goals, man. I think the inner competitive fire in you is huge. So the intentional mindset, fourth bulleted point, get into the intentional mindset. So that kind of goes hand in hand with the fifth bulleted point of have a purpose behind everything you do each day. Is we have to establish that intent. We have to establish intent. I know you hear about intent all the time, but it's so true, man. Like you got to be intentional with everything you do. Like you have a goal, you have a set plan of how it's going to work out, as like how you're going to accomplish that goal, and then it's understanding like, okay, if this is the price that I got to pay to accomplish this goal, if I got to do this, you got to be intentional with it. And I know we're human beings and we're going to slip up a lot of the times, but recoup and get back on track. Be super intentional with everything you do, because as I've discussed earlier, when it comes to velocity, like there's so many pieces to the puzzle, and I think everything everything goes into it, not just like one or two things, man. Like everything we do, we can really maximize our day and our work ethic if we're completely intentional. So identify protocols that you respond well to, the sixth bulleted point. I talk a lot about like really identifying the sweet spot for you. I can sit here and talk about my sweet spot and what I do as far as protocols that I incorporate that I know I respond really well to. I can't say that it's going to work for you, but I can say that you can start identifying the protocols for yourself, whether it be, heavy long toss, or a lot of weighted ball stuff, a lot of counterbalance stuff, a lot of Indian clubs or J-bands 7 times a day. Like you just gotta, trial and error period, identify what your body responds well to, what your arm responds well to. Mental restrictions is a huge thing. I went through a huge mental restrictions thing in 2014. And there was a lot of components to that I've spoke on in previous segments, but the biggest thing is understand, like, is your mind holding you back from your velocity goals, or is it a physical component? For me, the best way to go about identifying mental restrictions is like, what are you feeling when you're going about your throwing for your velocity development, right? Do you feel like you're really restricted because you're having to throw it to a certain location, or is the restriction physical? I think there's a couple ways to go about it, but you got to identify that is it your mental side holding you back. Long toss goals before velocity goals, this is a big one for me. I think putting yourself in a situation where you're not just seeing a target that's close to you and saying, okay, I got to throw it as hard as I can, because sometimes that's a disconnect in what we're trying to do. I think what we're trying to do is really break chains and break through our barriers of velocity enhancement. And the best way that I found to go about that is like setting goals as far as how far I can throw the ball. And I know not everyone's an advocate of long toss, and they all have their own reasons why, but for me, it's the best way I know how to describe it is like, throwing towards a distance goal is better for me to break through those mental barriers than if it were to be, okay, just throw it as hard as I can into a fence. For me, it's establishing those velocity goals and reaching peak velocity, and then finding out where I'm positioned as far as like my body in the highest possible power output positions that I am, and then just replicating that to, my pull downs, run and guns, and then mound, flat ground, all of that. Eat, train, sleep with velocity gains in mind. Again, it kind of goes back to everything you do, being intentional. Like, I hope you guys know that the training and eating and sleeping, like, this is all a huge piece to, not just velocity, but development and, athletic performance in general. It's being intentional. I kind of already alluded to that earlier, but the training aspect of it, I think, is huge. Have the intent of velocity gains in your training, and then even in your eating, make those gains, and then sleep. Like, that's where we're going to do our best recovering to allow our body to get back to the position where it's feeling good for that next day, so we can get back on track with our training. Establish really good routines and habits. I think you guys who know me know that I'm a huge routines guy. Identify like a good set of routines that you can do throughout the day, and then do them for like 10 days, grind through it, and then they just become habits, so you're constantly doing them throughout the entire day, throughout the entire week, and you don't even have to like worry about them. Set reminders on your phone, like, hey, it's the morning, I'm going to get some mobility in. Okay, it's the afternoon, like, I'm going to get a walk in. Just whatever it is, man, the littlest things matter. And then put yourself in competitive environments. I talked about that with the surrounding yourself with a group seeking velocity gains. I think we maximize our performance, especially as athletes, when we're competitive. Like, it's our primal instinct to freaking compete and want to win and beat people. So especially when it comes to velocity, man, is like, put yourself in a culture of constant competition, and I think you're gonna propel yourself to where you want to be as far as your velocity. And then this kind of goes back to the identification of mental restrictions, but this piece is physical restrictions. Address any physical restrictions, whether it be a capacity issue, you don't have the essential mobility to get into certain high power output positions. You don't have the strength, you don't have the capacity as far as the strength aspect to handle the load that you're putting on your body and you're putting on your arms. So that needs to be addressed in a weight room setting. And then no, velocity development is not linear. So this is a big one too, because I think there's a lot of guys that will get discouraged, when they go, oh, I just pulled down 92, and then 2 weeks later they're like, oh, I pulled down 88, and then all of a sudden, like, freaking ship sinks, man, and then like everything just goes, hits the fan. So you got to get in the frame of mind, like, understanding that velocity development is not going to be linear. You're going to have days where, you don't do what you want to do, and that's okay. Just stick to the plan, stick to the process. That's, again, it goes back to like that foundation. That foundation is going to propel you to constantly work. But I know I've been in, situations too where like I've pulled down on days where I was feeling really good, and it wasn't where I wanted it, and I get really discouraged. And sometimes that discouragement that you feel can be detrimental to the overall process of velocity development. So I think before you start your process, know that you're gonna have a little bumps in the roads, but it's okay. Stick to the process, control the things you can control, and just continue to go about it the right way, and good things will happen. I hope that made sense as I broke it down for you guys. Best of luck in your development process, and I guess the last thing, track your velocity, compete within yourself. In the show notes, you'll see on the link to this particular segment, you'll see that I can get you a discount on Pocket Radar. I think tracking your velocity is a huge piece, and constantly competing with yourself. So if you don't see it where I just said it was, just DM me on Instagram for that Pocket Radar discount. All right, guys, much love.